Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit of technical analysis on Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency markets, and more specifically, I want to talk about the events that have unfolded here on the Bitcoin chart over the last 24 to 48 hours or so, because what we've seen recently is that it looks like Bitcoin has set a bottom down here around $3,200. That's exactly where we were talking about Bitcoin setting a bottom, because if you come out to the weekly chart and we look at the 200 weekly simple moving average, that is sitting right around $3,200. So it looks like to me that we've set a bottom, but of course it's not confirmed yet. We're going to be discussing in today's video whether or not $3,200 is a semi-permanent bottom or even a permanent bottom, or if we're about to break it moving on into the next couple of days and on into the next couple of weeks. We're going to be discussing all of that and more in today's video, so if you enjoyed today's video, definitely consider dropping a like and hitting that subscribe button. Also hit that notification bell so you'll be updated every single time a new video comes out. But without much further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. Bitcoin is now trading on Coinbase at around $3,489, up a little bit from where it was yesterday. If we can see here on CoinMarketCap, it's up about 5% today, which is definitely not a bad thing. Not going to complain about that. But like I said in yesterday's video, I would be perfectly happy with it going much, much lower so we can buy more Bitcoin. But at the same time, I'm also a little tired of this 2018 bear market. So if Bitcoin wants to go up, then by all means, go straight to the moon, baby. Anyway, let's talk about this. Let's talk about Bitcoin being down here around $3,200. Like I said earlier on in the video, that does correlate with that 200 weekly simple moving average that we've been discussing here on the channel, but it also correlates with the 50 monthly simple moving average. We have to go on to the Bitfinex chart to see this. That is sitting right down here around $3,000. So Bitcoin came very close to hitting $3,000 and setting that as a bottom, but we didn't quite get there, which kind of indicates to me that we may be going all the way down to $3,000 just because it's a stronger level of support. I could see Bitcoin bouncing a little bit here, maybe up to $3,600, $3,700, $3,800, and then finally hitting a permanent bottom down around $3,000, which is a much more well-defined level because it is a previous all-time high, as we know. Back over here in 2017, it was an all-time high, and then it was the low of the market here in September of 2017, and it's also a big even, so it has 3 zeros in it. Definitely a good candidate for a permanent or semi-permanent bottom for Bitcoin. Anyway, let's go ahead and do the crypto market recap, and then we'll jump back on into Bitcoin. As we can see across all exchanges, Bitcoin is currently trading at around $3,567 with a daily volume of around $5 billion. Not a bad day for Bitcoin. It's doing pretty well compared to what it's been doing over the last month or so. We're starting to see a little bit more green. We saw a little bit of green back in over here, but now we're seeing a little bit more come in. XRP is trading around 31 cents with $400 million worth of daily volume, and it's up by about 4%. Ethereum's doing okay. It's actually trying to get back up above this $100 level. We've talked about that previously, about how Ethereum fell below $100. It tried to set support there, but it fell below it, and it eventually even got resistance at $100. Not a good sign for Ethereum, but I would like to see Ethereum continue this little rally that it's been on, this little pump, if you want to call it, that it's been doing for the last couple of hours, moving back up towards and hopefully above $100. It's up by about 6.66% here over the last 24 hours. And in fact, most of the crypto market is actually doing pretty well today. EOS is up 15%. Bitcoin SV is down, but Bitcoin SV is kind of special, isn't it? Bitcoin Cash is up 10%. And if we sort by change over the last 24 hours here, we see that DEX, Komodo, Revencoin, EOS, and ELF are the biggest gainers, all up in the double-digit green. And as we scroll down here, we're going to see that there aren't very many red coins at all. The entire cryptocurrency market is bouncing today. But as a matter of fact, Factum is down here in the red. You guys know I like making that pun because it's a very, very easy one to make. Anyway, we have 6 cryptocurrencies in the red today, a couple of them not even being that red. Monocoin and MobileGo not even being down by 1%. So overall, the market is doing rather well today. We're finally getting a bounce, considering, which is kind of to be expected, considering the amount of bearish price action that we've seen come out of Bitcoin over the last week, and in fact over the last month, because you guys know that the last month has been rather bearish for Bitcoin. We've seen a lot of red. We've seen a lot of sell side action. We've seen a lot of power from the bears show itself here in the price action on Bitcoin, and overall, Bitcoin hasn't been doing very well. It's been underperforming pretty much every single other market, even as the stock market, for example, continues to take a hit. As you can see, it's the S&P 500 is down by about 2.5% today. Anyway, the thing that we're discussing in today's video is whether or not $3,200 was a bottom. Was it a semi-permanent bottom? Was it a permanent bottom? What kind of bottom is this? Is this bottom going to hold, or is it about to actually just go and break, as so many other bottoms here in Bitcoin have done recently? Bitcoin is in an interesting position right now. I want to go ahead and run through the reasons why I believe $3,000 to $3,200 is a very strong level of support. Once again, I know I've done it in many videos, but I need to do it again since that's what we're discussing here. There are many different reasons why I believe $3,000 to $3,200 is a strong level of support, which is why ever since we were back up here above $4,000, I've been calling for Bitcoin to go down to 3, is because of how strong the support looks down here and how strong the bears looked back then over here in the ending of November and the very early part of December. Let's go ahead and cover those. The first thing I want to show you guys is, of course, what I showed you earlier. The 200 weekly simple moving average right there gives support at the $3,200 level, about $3,170, depending on what exchange you're looking at. And that's a very important and very significant simple moving average. I want to make it very clear how important this simple moving average is. It's a very, very powerful one, especially on the daily chart. Now, of course, it's a different moving average on the weekly chart, but this same technical indicator on the daily chart is very powerful because, as we can see back over here in April and in late July of 2018, it served as the rejection point for a couple of these rallies. And if we look back in time on Bitcoin, we'll have to go to the Bitfinex chart. If we look back in time on Bitcoin, the 2016-17 bull market actually started with a cross of the 200 daily simple moving average. As you can see, let's scroll in right here. This moving average right here is the 200 daily simple moving average, and right about the time that Bitcoin got above it, that was the start of the bull market, and Bitcoin never once went back below that simple moving average until the bear market started again back over here in 2018, and that was right back over here. So that's a very important simple moving average, and I do believe it carries a lot of weight on the weekly chart as well, partially because of how much weight it carries on the daily chart, but also partially because the 200 weekly simple moving average tends to be a very powerful indicator in many different markets, not just in Bitcoin. So as we can see here, that is giving us some support down there. That's one thing that I'm looking at. Another thing is what I showed you earlier as well, which would be the 50 weekly simple moving average. It's sitting right around $3,000. One other thing, of course, to consider is that $3,000 was a previous all-time high. Don't want to have that be discounted. That's a very important piece of technical analysis. $3,000 was an all-time high, and then it was the bottom of a market a couple of months later. That is very significant, and that does lend a lot of credence to this being a permanent bottom for Bitcoin. That is a very important piece of technical analysis. And then, of course, there's a couple things that I haven't discussed yet in the video, which one is that $3,000 is about 85% retrace from all-time high, which would look exactly the same as the previous bear market over here in 2015 and 14. We can see the market retraced down here about 85%. So there are several other things that I can go into about why 3K looks like a very strong bottom. But if you guys are a subscriber to the channel, if you watch any video I've uploaded in the last week, you probably heard me say that a couple times, and you're probably, excuse me, you probably get the idea that $3,000 is a very strong bottom. So let's go ahead and get back into the hourly chart and talk about whether or not this is actually a bottom or if this is just going to break and Bitcoin's going to go lower. Well, there's a lot of different things that we want to talk about here. One of them actually has to do with the RSI and has to do with what we've seen here on the RSI on the hourly chart and on the daily chart. Excuse me, and on the 4-hourly chart. We saw some bullish RSI divergence recently. We saw some lows here, and then we saw some higher lows. We saw some lower lows on the price action chart, some higher lows on the RSI, which indicated bullish divergence. And now we've not really seen that trend continue. We've seen another lower low on Bitcoin, as you can see here. We saw another lower low right there, but then on the RSI, we saw a lower low on it also. That is not a bullish sign. If we had a chance, if we were to have, for example, bullish divergence there, that would have been a very good thing, but that's not what we've seen. We've seen RSI go back down low, and we did see a strong bounce here. You could even argue that this looks like an inverse head and shoulders pattern. You could see like a shoulder right there, a head right there, and a shoulder right there. Kind of an ugly inverse head and shoulders pattern. You might be able to argue that. If we come out here to the 4-hourly chart, what we're going to see is that the RSI went quite overextended as well, and we did see some more bullish RSI divergence on the 4-hourly chart. We saw lower lows here, and we saw higher lows on RSI, so there's some bullish RSI divergence right there. It's very slight. That's not a very big uptrend, and in fact, depending on what chart you're looking on, that might not even be there, but that is a powerful thing to look at because RSI divergence is a very powerful indicator and normally does actually tell you something about the market and normally is pretty accurate in predicting things. One more thing that I want to talk about is out on the daily chart. Actually, there's many things I want to talk about here on the daily chart, and that has to do, for one, with the MACD. As we can see, the MACD for Bitcoin recently has turned bullish again. That's a very good thing. We were bullish for a little while, and then it kind of just fell over. The market fell over. We were going down. We had a little bit of bullish momentum come in, and then the bears took control back and pushed us back lower, and we saw that bearish cross on the MACD just a couple of days ago. But now we've seen a bullish cross on the MACD again. That's a very good sign, and I would like to see where this develops over the next couple of days, because one more thing that I also want to see is for Heikin-Ashi to turn green. As you guys know, I'm a big fan of the Heikin-Ashi candles because it gives you a really good picture of when an actual reversal in the market has come and when that reversal is strong. It also gives you a lot of information about the strength of trends. That's why we have an entire video. Actually, I have almost like a video and a half in the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy linked in the description on Heikin-Ashi. It's a very, very powerful candlestick type. It's not even really a technical indicator. It's a type of candlestick, but I do like it. And one thing I would like to see over the next couple of days is for Heikin-Ashi to turn green. And as you can see, because of how small this candlestick is right here, we could probably expect if Bitcoin continues this trend that's been in, or even trades sideways for the next 48 hours, we'll probably see a green Heikin-Ashi candlestick come out, and that'd be a very good thing to see indeed. If we saw 3 or 4 days of green Heikin-Ashi, that could look like some kind of rally. Now, one thing I want to point out here is that a lot of people have been calling what we've seen over the last couple of hours kind of a relief rally or a suckers rally, or just kind of just a little something to give the bulls a little bit of their strength back so that the bears can continue pushing us downwards. And I completely understand that position, and I don't necessarily disagree with it, but I do think that because of how far retraced or how far Bitcoin has retraced here over the last couple of days, I do think we're probably going to see some kind of rally, especially since we've just gotten support down here in that $3,000 range. Guys, you have to realize the bears, I don't think were even terribly strong up here above $6,000, as opposed to how strong they became immediately after we broke it. After we broke it, they became a lot stronger, of course. But we've retraced 50% in the span of a month, and that's a very big retracement. We saw shorts, for example, when you look at the shorts chart, shorts went up to all-time high yesterday, up to 43,000 shorts here on Bitfinex. That's an all-time high when we're pretty much at an all-time low of participation in the market because so many people have left the market. So that means that the bears have been very, very strong, but the bears are also very, very overextended, guys, because they pushed this shorts chart so far up when there's many less people in the market now than there were back over here, for example, when we initially ran up to 40,000 shorts. And also, we've broken below $6,000. We've broken all of these levels of support that the bulls were defending, and the bears have pushed us so far low. So it seems to me that the bears are probably on the cusp of being exhausted, or at least they've lost a lot of their strength, simply because many of the people that were going to sell have already sold. I don't see many of them having a ton more Bitcoin to sell, and I don't think many people are going to be. I don't want to use a pejorative here or anything, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of people that want to short here when we're right above $3,000. If we break below $3,000, then some of these predictions of $2,000 or $1,500 for Bitcoin very well may come true. But for the time being, what it looks like to me, and this is the main point that I've been leading to for the entire video, it looks to me like $3,000 is turning into at least a semi-permanent bottom, if not a permanent bottom, analogous to $6,000 in the 2018 bear market, and also analogous to around $160 in the 2014 bear market. Because if we look back over here, what we saw in 2014 and 15 is that Bitcoin set a very strong bottom at $300 and then broke below that, retraced about 50% below that semi-permanent bottom down to about $160, $170, about 40 to 50%, and then set an actual permanent bottom down there. And that's what it seems to be that we're doing right now, because this level right here would be analogous to 6K, and this level right here would be analogous to 3K. That's what it looks like is happening to me. It looks like Bitcoin is repeating history, and it looks like Bitcoin is probably going to hold $3,000, if not permanently, at least for the foreseeable future, simply because I think the technicals are, I don't know what my chart did there, simply because it looks like the technicals are starting to show that Bitcoin needs a little bit of more bullishness to come back in. It looks like the bears are exhausted, and based on previous market history, it does look like $3,000 would be a permanent bottom, since we have already followed the 2014 and 15 bear market so closely. The market looks extremely similar, and now it looks like the market is continuing to repeat history by setting $3,000 as a semi-permanent bottom. It's almost spooky how similar $3,000 is to $160 in the 2014 and 15 bear market, and how similar the 2018 bear market has played out as opposed to the 2014 and 15 bear market. A lot of people have called that manipulation. A lot of people have said, well, there's just people behind the scenes pulling strings with billions of dollars shorting and buying and longing and working in the market and selling the market, trying to manipulate the market so that they can make as much money as possible on the one hand, or to destroy Bitcoin on the other hand. Tell me in the comment section down below as the question of the day what you guys think about that. Do you think Bitcoin is just being manipulated like crazy? Do you think the market looks very similar to 2014 and 15 because of technicals, or because of manipulation, or just by coincidence? I'm interested to hear your opinions on that in the comment section down below. You guys do know I try to read every single comment. Sometimes I can't get to all of them because there are so many of you guys now, which I'm eternally grateful for. And with that note, I do want to thank each and every single one of you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.